Hello everyone, my name is Richa Mahajan, Assistant Professor from Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Jagannath University, Jaipur. Hello everyone, today I am going to talk about ethical aspects of photojournalism. Journalism is the production and distribution of reports on the interaction of events, facts, ideas, and people that are the news of the day and that informs society to at least some degree. Street photography in its broad forms is not really a subcategory of journalism, although a lot of images have historical value in showing the life of a certain time. It is not really dedicated to inform society. At its highest form, street photography has mostly artistic value in documenting the human nature in its natural environment. It is not necessarily to tell informative stories or to research mankind in a deep fashion, but scraps on the surface of the people, names, background, and their story doesn't matter in street photography since we do not interact with our subject or get in contact with them. On the other hand, documentary photography gets closer to people in the way that it is all about the story they tell. The purpose of this genre is to show informative stories through a series of images, mostly accompanied with written text. One of the key factors of social documentary photography is honesty and trust. Today's media is in a very confusing state with accusations of fake news spreading the world, and it's not really clear what is true and what is altered. There lies a chance for documentary photography to simply show unaltered images and build trust. Next is botched images. Now we will discuss what is botched images. Unfortunately, documentary photography had its fair share of scandals during the last year as well. One of the best known scandals involved photographer Steve McCurry, who allegedly staged some of his photos, wrote accompanying text that did not state the truth, or used Photoshop to tinker the images. Those relevance are hurting the credibility of photojournalism in times when it would be the chance to trump as independent journalism sources. Nonetheless, the majority of stories is not opinion driven but seeks to tell the truth. Although we have to understand that the first person perspective can never be 100% objective, it should be the target to share facts rather than personal beliefs. Next one is responsibility. As human beings, photojournalists should follow the same ethics as everyone else. From my perspective, this means to do everything reasonable possible to help people in direct suffering. As of the nature of photojournalism, this leads to a lot of discrepancies since the characteristics of documentary photography means that photographers find themselves more often than not in area of conflict that challenge the ethics of photojournalism. Let's discuss this dilemma with the help of following controversial picture. See this picture. The image shows a suffering girl, obviously malnourished and being watched by a symbol of death, the vulture. Clearly, this is a powerful image shot by Kevin Carter in 1993 in Sudan. It depicts the struggle of the United Nations to provide aid against the famine. Struggling with his own depression, Carter took his life a few months later, provoking the rumors that he could not live with the feeling of guilt of documenting these human tragedies without being able to solve the problems. If this picture would be posted online in any discussion forum, there would be a lot of voices that would support this claim of how could he take a picture in this situation without providing any sort of help. The same arguments could be heard during the migration crisis in Europe or the conflict zones in the Middle East. In my opinion, this shows the dilemma of the ethics of photojournalism. On the one hand, these kinds of people seek out dangerous situations where they document people that obviously need help. On the other hand, it is impossible for a single photographer to help all these people. So, what is the actual solution to this conflict? So, should photojournalism cease to exist and human suffering go undocumented? Should we all sit in our comforting homes and turn a willfully blind eye to critical areas of the world while we are in a perfectly safe environment? Next is the power of images. What is often forgot during these discussions is the power these images can provide and how they can translate emotions into actions. In more recent news, the picture showing a boy that barely survived the hell that Aleppo is to this very day made the public aware of the living conditions of more than 100,000 citizens that still live in this area. Now let's take a look on this photograph. Did this image have a significant influence and impact, improving the situation and living conditions in Aleppo? This is a question that is not answerable with certainty. Maybe the future will have a more differentiated view on such events and the influence of pictures. But what the photo provides is awareness and pressure on politicians to actually provide aid. Not publishing those images and censoring every image of human suffering would not mean that the world is suddenly a better place. It would have the effect that we would not have to look at these images anymore, and slowly they would vanish from the public eye. Without these haunting pictures and new news, there would not be the slightest pressure on those that are capable of providing help out of sight, out of mind, right? The Afghan girl, photographed by Steve MC Curry, yes, despite the photoshopped images, he has captured some truly impactful images too, is one of the most famous photographs of 21st century. The legacy of this image, the Afghan Children's Fund, was founded and has raised more than 1 million USD to this day. Photographers do their best to help. Their tool is the camera, which allows them to raise public awareness more than anything else. I understand that it is hard to look at these images, but we should not criticize the people who spread the message, but rather focus on the roots of the problem and do the best we can personally. Street photography and social tendencies. Street photography and social tendencies. Unfortunately, mixing social documentaries photography with street photography mostly leads to very uninspiring photos of homeless people, often shot from far away without any connection of the subject. Are these photos a form of exploitation? Beggars, panhandlers, or homeless people are part of the street, a part that it is considered taboo to show because society doesn't want to look at them. If we accept that street photography should document life on the street truthfully, it would only distort reality if homeless people were not represented in modern street photos. Therefore, I have to conclude that it is not exploitation to include them. But there is some misconception in today's street photography that any image of a homeless person will do it and represent modern wealth inequality or whatever they are trying to say with such images. The truth is, 99% of those so called street photography images of beggars are uninspired and don't hold any real value. Thank you so much.